The spreadsheet numbers blurred together as I rubbed my tired eyes, but the irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, analyzing investment returns at midnight while my own marriage was hemorrhaging value faster than a penny stock in free fall. Calder, are you coming to bed? Mira's voice drifted from upstairs, sweet as honey laced with arsenic. Just finishing up these quarterly reports, I called back, not bothering to look up from my laptop. The numbers didn't lie, unlike some people in this house. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She appeared in my home office doorway wearing that silk nightgown I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed made her feel attractive and alive. Her auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders in waves that probably took an hour to perfect, even for bedtime. You work too hard, baby. She moved behind my chair, her manicured fingers trailing across my shoulders. Maybe it's time we started working on something else. I saved the document and leaned back. Like what? Like a family. Her hands stilled. I've been thinking about having a baby. The suggestion hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. After 8 years of marriage, Mira had never once mentioned wanting children. In fact, she'd been adamantly against it, claiming kids would ruin her figure and interfere with her boutique. That's sudden, I said carefully. She moved around to perch on the edge of my desk, her nightgown riding up her thighs. Is it really? We're not getting any younger, Calder. I'm 38. And you've spent the last 8 years telling me that motherhood was a trap for women without ambition. Her laugh tinkled like breaking glass. People change. I've changed. She leaned forward, her green eyes sparkling with something I couldn't quite identify. Besides, I've been thinking about genetics lately, about what kind of father would give our child the best advantages. Something cold settled in my stomach. Meaning? Well, you're smart, obviously. Great with money. But physically? She tilted her head, studying me like I was a specimen under a microscope. My ex-boyfriend Rafe was much more athletic, taller, more masculine, I guess. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my expression neutral. After 15 years in financial analysis, I'd learned to hide my reactions. Your ex from college? He wasn't just athletic, you know. He was passionate, ambitious, the kind of man who takes what he wants. Her voice had taken on a dreamy quality that made my skin crawl. Sometimes I wonder what our children would have looked like. I closed my laptop with deliberate calm. Interesting timing for this conversation, Mira. What do you mean? Nothing. I'm tired. Let's go to bed. But as I followed her upstairs, my mind was racing. Mira never brought up her exes unless she was trying to make a point, and she certainly never fantasized about having children with other men unless... The thought crystallized as we reached our bedroom. She'd left her tablet on the nightstand, screen still glowing. As she disappeared into the bathroom for her nightly skincare routine, I glanced at the device. The messaging app was open. I read the conversation thread with Rafe D. Mira. Can't stop thinking about last weekend. When can we do it again? Rafe. Soon, baby. Just need to be careful with your husband around. Mira. He's so clueless. Works all the time, never pays attention to me. Rafe. His loss is my gain. You're as gorgeous as ever. Mira. I told him I want a baby tonight. Rafe. LOL, seriously? What did he say? Mira. Doesn't matter what he says. We both know whose baby I really want. The bathroom door opened and I quickly looked away, my heart hammering against my ribs. Mira emerged in a cloud of expensive moisturizer and betrayal. You okay? She asked, settling into bed beside me. You look pale. I managed a smile. Just thinking about what you said. About having a baby. She snuggled against me, her hand resting on my chest. Really? You'd want that? With you? Of course. The lies came easily now. Though I have to ask, are you sure I'm the right father for your children? You seem to have some doubts about my genetic contributions. Her laugh was too bright, too quick. Don't be silly. I was just being honest about Rafe's physical attributes. It doesn't mean anything. No, of course not. Though speaking of Rafe, didn't you mention running into him recently? I felt her tense against me. Did I? I don't remember. At the grocery store, you said, last weekend. Oh, right. Yes, we chatted for a few minutes. Nothing important? Another lie. According to her phone's location history, which she'd never bothered to turn off, she'd spent 3 hours at the Marriott downtown last Saturday, the same hotel where Rafe was staying, according to his social media check-ins. Well, I said, stroking her hair with fingers that wanted to strangle her. I'm glad you two are reconnecting. She pulled back to look at me. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. Just that it's nice when old friends stay in touch. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but then she smiled and kissed my cheek. You're sweet, and you're going to be a wonderful father. I waited until her breathing deepened into sleep before slipping out of bed. Back in my office, I opened my laptop and began making lists: financial assets, joint accounts, property deeds, insurance policies. If Mira wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I'd spent my entire career analyzing risk and calculating returns. I knew how to spot a bad investment, and I definitely knew how to cut my losses. The next morning, I watched Mira flutter around the kitchen in her silk robe, humming as she made her protein smoothie. She looked radiant, the glow of a woman with secrets. I'm meeting Jules for lunch today, she announced, not looking at me. Then I need to stop by the boutique to check on Sienna. Sounds nice. What time will you be home? Not sure. You know how Jules likes to talk. She kissed my forehead, her lips cool and dry. Don't wait up if you don't hear from me. I nodded and returned to my newspaper, but inside I was calculating. Jules lived in California now, had for 2 years, and according to Mira's calendar, she had no appointments at the boutique today. After she left, I called my old college roommate Drew, who'd become one of the city's best divorce attorneys. Calder, how's married life treating you? That's actually why I'm calling. Hypothetically speaking, what would someone need to prove adultery in Massachusetts? The line went quiet. Hypothetically? Very hypothetically. Well, hypothetically, Massachusetts is a no-fault state, so adultery doesn't affect property division much, but it can impact alimony, especially if marital assets were used to support the affair. His voice turned serious. Calder, what's going on? Nothing I can't handle. But hypothetically, how would someone protect their assets if they suspected their spouse was planning to leave them for someone else? Hypothetically, they'd want to document everything: financial records, communications, evidence of asset dissipation. And they'd want to move quickly to prevent their spouse from hiding or transferring marital property. Hypothetically, of course. Of course. Calder, if you need help, real help, not hypothetical, you call me immediately, okay? Thanks, Drew. I owe you a beer. You owe me a lot more than a beer if this is heading where I think it is. After hanging up, I drove to Mira's boutique in the trendy downtown district. The shop was called Mirage, a name that seemed increasingly appropriate. Through the large front windows, I could see Sienna rearranging a display of overpriced scarves. Sienna Martinez was 29, ambitious, and had been managing Mira's store for 3 years. She was also, according to office gossip I'd overheard, increasingly frustrated with Mira's management style. The bell chimed as I entered. Sienna looked up from the register, surprise flickering across her face. Calder, I wasn't expecting to see you today. Mira's not here. I know. Actually, I was hoping to talk to you. I glanced around the empty store. Business looked slow. Her expression tightened. It's been challenging lately. The economy, you know. Is that all it is? She studied my face carefully. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken of Mira's tablet screen, the banking app showing a transfer of $5,000 to R. DeLuca Imports last week. I'm curious about this transaction. It came from the boutique's account. Sienna's eyes widened. I don't know anything about that. But you do handle the books, right? Day-to-day operations? Well, yes, but Mira has her own access to the accounts. She doesn't always tell me about transfers. I nodded sympathetically. That must make your job difficult. Hard to manage inventory and payroll when you don't have the complete financial picture. It is. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Calder, is everything okay? You seem different. I'm just trying to understand some discrepancies in our joint finances. Nothing for you to worry about. I paused. Though I have to ask, has Mira mentioned anything about changes in her personal life? New plans, new relationships? Sienna bit her lip. I probably shouldn't say anything. Sienna, I'm not asking you to betray Mira's confidence. I'm asking you to help me understand what's happening to my marriage and my money. She looked around the store as if checking for hidden cameras. She's been different lately, happier, but also secretive. She takes long lunches and doesn't always say where she's going, and there have been phone calls she takes in the back office with the door closed. Phone calls? Yesterday she was laughing and saying things like, soon, baby, and he'll never see it coming. I assumed she was planning a surprise for you, but... The way she said he sounded more like she was talking about you, not to you. I felt that familiar cold sensation in my stomach. Sienna, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Mira been taking money from the business for personal use? Her face crumpled. I've been trying to ignore it, but yes. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. She always says it's temporary, that she'll pay it back, but she never does. Never, and now the business account is overdrawn. I've been covering payroll with my credit card because I didn't want the other girls to suffer. My anger shifted from cold to molten. Not only was Mira cheating on me, she was stealing from her own business and forcing her loyal employee to cover the losses. How much? I asked. Total? Maybe $15,000 over the past 6 months? I pulled out my checkbook. I'm going to write you a check to cover what you've paid out of pocket, plus interest. But I need you to do something for me. Her eyes filled with tears. Calder, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You've been more loyal to this business than its owner has. I wrote the check and handed it to her. I need you to document everything. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every time Mira takes cash from the register. Can you do that? She nodded, clutching the check like a lifeline. And Sienna? Not a word to Mira about this conversation, for both our sakes. I understand. As I left the boutique, my phone buzzed with a text from Mira. Having so much fun with Jules. Might stay out late. Don't wait up. XO. I checked the location data on her phone. She was at the Marriott again. Time to pay Rafe DeLuca a visit. Rafe DeLuca Imports occupied a gleaming showroom in the warehouse district, filled with expensive European cars that gleamed under halogen spotlights. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see a man in an expensive suit gesturing animatedly to a couple examining a red Ferrari. The man had to be Rafe. Even from a distance, I could see why Mira was attracted to him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of Mediterranean good looks that aged well. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile brilliant white against olive skin. I waited in my car until the couple left, then walked into the showroom. Up close, Rafe was even more impressive, and more arrogant. His handshake was unnecessarily firm, his smile predatory. Beautiful day, isn't it? He said, his voice carrying a slight accent that sounded more affected than natural. I'm Rafe DeLuca. What can I show you today? I'm interested in something reliable, I said. Something I can trust not to break down when I need it most. Ah, a practical man. I respect that. He gestured toward a silver BMW. German engineering. Built to last. Though if you don't mind me saying, you look like someone who could afford to take a few risks. I've learned that taking risks with the wrong people can be expensive. Something flickered in his eyes. True, but the right risks with the right people can be very rewarding. He studied my face more carefully. Have we met before? You look familiar. I don't think so, though I've heard your name mentioned recently. All good things, I hope. That depends on your perspective. I ran my hand along the BMW's hood. Nice car. Must do well for yourself. I do all right. Import business is booming. Americans love their European luxury. I imagine the overhead is significant. Shipping costs, insurance, storage. It is, but I have some private investors who help with cash flow. The way he said private investors made my skin crawl. Anyone I might know? I work in finance myself. Mostly local business people, a boutique owner, some restaurant owners, people with extra cash who want better returns than they'd get from a bank. A boutique owner? That's interesting. My wife owns a boutique. His smile faltered slightly. Really? What's the name of her shop? Mirage, in the downtown district. The color drained from Rafe's face. Mirage, he repeated slowly. You know it. I might have driven past it. Small world, right? Getting smaller every day. I pulled out my business card. I'm Calder Brooks, Mira's husband. He stared at the card like it might explode. Calder, right. Mira's mentioned you. Has she? All good things, I hope. Of course. She speaks very highly of you. That's sweet. She speaks highly of you, too. Says you were quite the catch back in college. Rafe's laugh sounded strangled. Ancient history. We were kids. But you've reconnected recently. Just, running into each other around town, old friends catching up. At the Marriott? The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Rafe's face went through several interesting color changes. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean that my wife has been spending a lot of time at the Marriott lately. Same time you've been checked in there. Quite a coincidence. Look, Mr. Brooks. Calder, please. We're practically family now. He took a step back. I think there's been some misunderstanding. Oh, I understand perfectly. My wife is having an affair with her ex-boyfriend, who happens to be bleeding her business dry with his investment opportunities. She's planning to leave me and take half of everything I've worked for. The only misunderstanding is hers. I don't know what you think is happening. I think you're about to find out that stealing another man's wife is expensive, especially when that man knows how to make your life very, very complicated. Rafe straightened up, trying to regain his composure. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. See, I've spent the morning looking into your business, R. DeLuca Imports. Interesting financial structure, a lot of cash transactions, minimal paper trail. That's perfectly legal. I'm sure it is. But I wonder what the IRS would think about some of your creative bookkeeping, or what your insurance company would say about the way you've been reporting inventory losses. His jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know that you've been taking money from my wife under false pretenses. I know that you've been meeting her at hotels while I'm at work, and I know that you're both planning something that involves my financial ruin. Mira's a grown woman. She can make her own choices. Absolutely, and I can make mine. I headed toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Rafe, you might want to check your business insurance policy. I noticed some interesting clauses about coverage being voided in cases of fraud. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Nothing at all, just friendly advice from one businessman to another. I left him standing there. His perfect smile finally cracked. Back in my car, I called Drew. I need you to run a full background check on someone, I said. Rafe DeLuca owns an import business downtown. I want to know everything. Financial records, legal troubles, business associates, parking tickets, everything. Calder, what are you planning? I'm planning to protect myself, and maybe teach a few people that actions have consequences. Be careful. Revenge has a way of backfiring. This isn't revenge, Drew. This is risk management. But as I drove home, I had to admit that the distinction was getting blurrier by the hour. That evening, Mira came home glowing with what she claimed was the aftermath of girl talk and too much wine. She chattered about Jules's fictional problems while I nodded and made appropriate responses, all the while watching her performance with professional detachment. You seem distracted tonight, she said as we got ready for bed. Everything okay? Just thinking about what you said yesterday, about having a baby. Her eyes lit up. Really? You've been considering it? I have. In fact, I made an appointment with Dr. Morrison for next week, for both of us. Both of us? Well, if we're going to start trying, we should make sure we're both in good health. Fertility testing, genetic screening, the works. I smiled at her. I want to make sure our child has the best possible start in life. Something flickered across her face. Panic, maybe, or calculation. That seems a bit clinical. I'm a details person, you know that. Besides, wouldn't you want to know if there were any potential issues, genetic incompatibilities, fertility problems? I suppose. And of course, we should probably get our finances in order first. Make sure we can afford to give our child everything they'll need. Our finances are fine. Are they? I've been reviewing our accounts, and I noticed some unusual activity. Large transfers, unexplained expenses. She turned away, busying herself with her skincare routine. I've been investing in some opportunities. Nothing for you to worry about. Opportunities like R. DeLuca Imports? Her hand stilled on the moisturizer bottle. How do you know about that? I make it my business to know where our money goes. $15,000 is a significant investment, Mira. I would have expected you to discuss it with me first. It's my money, too. Of course it is. I just want to make sure we're making smart decisions. I moved behind her, meeting her eyes in the bathroom mirror. Tell me about Rafe DeLuca. He's an old friend. A good investment opportunity came up, and I decided to take advantage of it. What kind of opportunity? Import business, European cars, very profitable. I'm sure it is. When do you expect to see returns on your investment? Soon. Very soon, I nodded. Good, because I'd hate for our financial planning to be based on unrealistic expectations. The next morning, I called Sienna. I need you to do something for me, I said. Tonight, after closing, I want you to change the locks on the boutique. Change the locks? But Mira? We'll be busy elsewhere. I've checked the schedule. She doesn't have any appointments at the store tomorrow, and she's planning to be out of town. Calder, I don't understand. Mira has been stealing from the business, Sienna. Money that should be paying your salary, covering rent, keeping the lights on. As of this morning, I'm calling in the loan I made to help her start the boutique. You made a loan? $50,000, with the business as collateral. The loan documents give me the right to secure the premises if payments become delinquent, which they have. But what about Mira? Mira made her choice when she decided to steal from her own business. You've been more loyal to that store than she has. As far as I'm concerned, you've earned the right to run it properly." There was a long silence. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a partnership. 60-40 split, your favor? You run the day-to-day operations, I handle the finances. We pay back the money Mira stole, get the business profitable again, and give you the security you deserve. And Mira? We'll learn that actions have consequences." That afternoon, I received a text from Mira. "Going to Boston for a few days. Business opportunity, back Sunday. Love you." According to her phone's GPS, she was at the Marriott. Again. I drove to the hotel and waited in the lobby until I saw them together, Mira and Rafe, holding hands like teenagers, heading for the elevator. She was wearing the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. He was carrying an overnight bag. I followed them up, staying far enough back to avoid detection. They got off on the 7th floor. Room 714, based on the key card Rafe fumbled with while Mira giggled and pressed herself against him. I waited an hour, then went to the front desk. "Excuse me," I said to the clerk. "I'm supposed to meet my business partner, Rafe DeLuca, but I can't reach him on his phone. Could you ring his room?" "Of course, sir. What's the name?" "DeLuca. He's in room 714. The clerk dialed and waited. "I'm sorry, sir, but there's no answer. Would you like to leave a message?" "Actually, could you tell me when he checked in? I want to make sure I have the right dates for our meeting." "Let me see. Mr. DeLuca checked in 3 days ago and is scheduled to check out Sunday morning." "Perfect. And just to confirm, is he registered alone?" The clerk's expression grew slightly uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give out information about other guests." "Of course, I understand." I slipped him a 20. "I'm just trying to coordinate some business meetings. It would be helpful to know if he's brought his assistant." The clerk pocketed the bill. "The room is registered to one guest, but there have been visitors." "Thank you. You've been very helpful." I spent the rest of the evening making preparations, phone calls to Drew, to my financial advisor, to the locksmith Sienna would be meeting. By the time I went to bed, the trap was set. All I had to do now was wait for them to spring it. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything seem sharper, more vivid. I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when Mira's key turned in the lock. "Honey, I'm home," she called, her voice bright with false cheer. She appeared in the kitchen doorway looking radiant and guilty, her hair slightly mussed despite obvious attempts to fix it. The dress she'd worn to the hotel was wrinkled, and she was carrying her shoes. "How was Boston?" I asked without looking up from my newspaper. "Productive. Very productive. The investment opportunity I mentioned, it's looking even better than expected." "That's wonderful. What kind of returns are we talking about?" She moved to the coffee maker, her back to me. "Significant ones. Life-changing, really." "I love it when investments pay off. Speaking of which, I had an interesting weekend myself." "Oh, what did you do?" "I visited your boutique, had a long talk with Sienna." Her hand stilled on the coffee pot. "About what?" "About the missing money. About the transfers to R. DeLuca Imports. About how she's been covering payroll with her own credit card while you've been investing in other ventures." She turned around, her face pale but her chin raised defiantly. "I don't know what she told you, but she told me the truth, Mira, something I haven't heard from you in months. You don't understand. The money I took was an investment. I was going to pay it back with interest." "When? After you and Rafe ran off together with whatever you could steal from our joint accounts?" The coffee mug slipped from her hands, shattering on the kitchen floor. "I don't know what you're talking about." I stood up slowly, pulling out my phone. "Let me refresh your memory. I played the recording I'd made yesterday, Mira and Rafe in the hotel hallway, their voices carrying clearly through the thin walls as they discussed their timeline for leaving town together. Rafe's voice, 2 more weeks and we'll have enough to disappear. Your husband won't know what hit him." Mira's laughter. "Poor Calder. He's so trusting, so stupid." Rafe. "What about the business?" Mira. "What about it? Let Sienna deal with the creditors. I'll be long gone." Mira's face went white. "You recorded us?" "I documented a crime in progress. There's a difference. It's not a crime. It's my money, too." "Actually, it's not." I pulled out a folder from the counter. "These are the papers you signed when I helped you start the boutique. The loan documents, the partnership agreements, the collateral arrangements. You might want to read the fine print." She grabbed the papers, her hands shaking. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you pledged our house as collateral for the business loan, which means when the business defaults, which it did as of Friday, I have the legal right to seize all assets to recover my losses." "You can't do this." I already did it. The locks have been changed, the accounts have been frozen. Sienna is now the managing partner, and she's agreed to cooperate fully with the investigation into the missing funds. Investigation? Did I forget to mention? I reported the theft to the police yesterday. Detective Morrison is very interested in talking to you about the $15,000 you stole from your own business. Mira sank into a chair, the papers scattered around her feet. You bastard! I'm the bastard. I'm not the one who's been stealing money to fund an affair. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Mira? You and Rafe were going to ride off into the sunset with my money and live happily ever after? She looked up at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with 12 years ago. Then the mask slipped back into place. You never appreciated me, she said. You took me for granted. Rafe makes me feel alive. Rafe makes you feel like a mark. Do you have any idea what his real financial situation is? He's successful. His business is 3 months behind on rent and facing foreclosure. The cars in his showroom, half of them belong to the bank. The other half are on consignment, which means he doesn't own them either. You're lying. I pulled out another folder. Bank records, credit reports, tax liens. Your boyfriend is broke, Mira. He's been using your money to keep his business afloat while he looks for his next victim. She stared at the documents, her face cycling through disbelief, anger, and finally, humiliation. But he loves me. He loves your bank account. Did you really think a man like Rafe DeLuca would risk everything for a 38-year-old married woman unless there was money involved? The cruelty of the words hit their mark. Mira flinched as if I'd slapped her. You're a cold, calculating bastard, she whispered. I learned from the best. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Speaking of Rafe, he's been trying to reach you. Seems the police want to talk to him too. Something about fraud and conspiracy charges. What have you done? I've protected myself, and I've made sure that everyone who helped you steal from me faces the consequences. She stood up, her legs unsteady. I want a divorce. I'm sure you do. Unfortunately, it's going to be difficult to afford a lawyer when all your assets are frozen and you're facing criminal charges. I'll get a public defender. Good luck with that. I hope they're better than the attorney Rafe hired. Though considering he paid for his legal representation with stolen money, I'm not optimistic about the outcome. Mira walked to the kitchen window and stared out at the garden she'd never bothered to tend. What do you want from me? I want you to sign a confession detailing everything you stole and where it went. I want you to cooperate fully with the police investigation, and I want you out of my house by tonight. And if I do all that, I'll ask the prosecutor to consider a plea deal. Maybe you'll only serve 6 months instead of 3 years. She turned around, tears streaming down her face. How did you become so heartless? You taught me. Every lie, every betrayal, every time you made me feel like I wasn't good enough. You were preparing me for this moment. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You just never thought you'd get caught. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Through the front window, I could see Detective Morrison's unmarked car in the driveway. That'll be for you, I said. Mira looked at me with something that might have been respect mixed with fear. You planned all of this. I planned to protect myself. Everything else was just good risk management. As the detective knocked on the door, Mira straightened her shoulders and walked toward the front hall. She paused at the kitchen doorway. I did love you once, she said quietly. I know, but you loved money more. She nodded and went to answer the door. I stayed in the kitchen, listening to the detective read Mira her rights. Through the window, I could see Rafe being led away in handcuffs from the hotel across the street. Drew had been busy making phone calls. My phone rang. It was Sienna. Calder, I just wanted to thank you again, for everything. You earned it, Sienna. How does it feel to be a business owner? Terrifying, but good, really good. She paused. Are you okay? I know this can't be easy. I watched as Detective Morrison escorted Mira to his car, her hands cuffed behind her back. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. I'm fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in years, I know exactly where I stand. What happens now? Now we rebuild. The business, our lives, everything they tried to destroy. And Mira? I watched the police car disappear around the corner. Mira gets to learn that there are consequences for betrayal. After hanging up, I poured myself another cup of coffee and returned to my newspaper. The house felt different already, cleaner somehow, lighter. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Rafe, apparently allowed one phone call from jail. This isn't over, I typed back. Yes, it is. Then I blocked his number and deleted the conversation. Outside, autumn leaves were falling like golden rain, covering the ground with the debris of another season's end. But inside, for the first time in months, everything was exactly as it should be.